Good morning, everyone from the Philippines. This is Dr. Shalona McFarland, and I thought I would discuss today some different healthy options that you have if you want to make some significant changes in your life for your eating habits, okay? I don't like to use the word diet because that deems something that's temporary. Whereas if you develop eating habits, then that is something that is permanent. At least it is more stable than a diet, okay? Because most people can't sustain a diet just because of the word alone. It's like a dirty word. All right, good morning, Jason. All right, so some of the things that I have found here in the Philippines that I know we have back home. I'm a big advocate of paleo and plant paradox. Okay, so paleo eating habit is fruits, vegetables, meats, and nuts. That's it. No grains, no corn, no soy, no dairy, no legumes, and little to no sugar. And sometimes that means eliminating fruit as well, if for people who are super sensitive to sugar, because fruit is a sugar. However, the plant paradox tells you which fruits, vegetables, and nuts to consume and which ones to stay away from. So, how do you get off of grains? Well, here's one way. This is a brand that we have back in the States and that we have here because that's where I purchased this. It is Birch Benders. And it's a wonderful product. These are pancakes, as you see, but they are not made with regular flour. They're made with cassava and almond flour. And it's really good. Like, my kids grew up on this stuff and they love it. You can add nuts and berries and things like that to it. I'll usually put a couple of eggs in it and make like basically a meal out of this. You can crumple some bacon into it and you cook it up just like you do normal pancakes. They cook up just as easy and very, very flavorful. And so that's a product that's a really nice product that we have here. And I always do the grain-free one. They do have a keto one and some other ones, but I always do the grain-free because I know this one's the cleanest that I've found as far as paleo clean. Now, if you want to, I also bake with that. I use it as like a flour base because that's what it is. It's just cassava and almond flour. There's no grain flour in it, which is fabulous. So this is just straight up cassava flour. Good morning, Jose. Good morning, Valerie. Well, it's evening there for you guys. All right, so cassava flour, this is what I use to bake with. Cassava and almond flour. Those are the two I use. There's a lot of different flour alternatives, but those are the two cleanest ones I've found. Cassava is basically yucca root. It looks like a giant, really ugly potato with a hard outer skin on it. But when I was in Africa, they cooked up cassava like French fries with palm oil. So they didn't use the nasty peanut oil. They didn't use the nasty russet potatoes. They used cassava and cut them up just like French fries, cooked them up in palm oil, and they were fabulous. And so I've done that a few times when I got back as well. But cassava flour, you bake with it just like you would regular flour. It's 1-to-1. So that means if it calls for, 3 cups of flour, it's 3 cups of cassava flour. And then that way you don't have the grains in it, but you still get the satiation of baked goods. And of course, if you're making it, you can limit the amount of sugar in it. You can change what you're adding or subtracting from it. Instead of baking with cow's milk, because, if you heard that first part there, no dairy, coconut milk. So Delicious is a pretty decent brand. I'm very limited on what I can get here in coconut milk. However, this is a really good brand, and they don't have too many things in there that are like super toxic. So that's nice. But again, you use it just like you would cow's milk. So instead of using cow's milk, you use coconut milk. Sometimes I'll use almond milk. You got to watch almond milk close as well. Sometimes they put carrageenan in there, which is a known carcinogen. They'll do gar gum and some different stuff for fillers that it's to help stabilize it in a box on a shelf instead of fresh. So if you're making your own fresh, that's like the absolute best that you can use. But it does go bad fast. The stuff in the box doesn't. So it's got all sorts of preservatives in it. But it's better than cow's milk. Cow's milk is made for baby cows. It's made to take a, 60, 70 pound calf and turn it into a 400-pound steer in 4 months. You might want to think about what that's doing to you. We are the only species on Earth that consumes another species' hormone dispensary system, and we are the only species that consumes it past infancy. And so, when we start to look like that species, that you might wonder, gee, is it maybe what I'm consuming? So those are just a couple of products that make it a little bit easier if you like baked goods, which I do. I'm human too, but there are ways to make it to where it's good, it's healthy for you, rather than toxic like most of the stuff we have here. So the beautiful thing about the paleo eating habit is that it completely eliminates all inflammatory foods. That's why it works so well for weight release, because if you're eliminating inflammatory foods, you're eliminating inflammation of the body. And so by eliminating grains, which are grains, corn, and soy, are the 3 most highly genetically modified foods on Earth. And so the genetically modified stuff really messes, obviously, with our genetics as well. You're consuming that. And so you stop consuming that, you stop messing up your genetics. But they're also very, very bad for us in other aspects. They cause disease, they cause inflammation, and inflammation is the leading cause of all diseasing processes. All right, so you eliminate grains, corn, and soy, which, by the way, corn is a grain. Legumes, which are beans, and by the way, peanuts are legumes. They are not nuts. They were misnamed from day one. So stay off of peanuts. If you want real nuts, you want things like pecans, pistachios, walnuts, Brazil nuts. Those are real nuts. Almonds, obviously. Okay. And then, of course, the dairy is the other inflammatory food. So those 5, the dairy, the corn, the soy, the grains, and the legumes, are all inflammatory foods. And if you look at the majority of what people eat, it falls in those 5 categories. And then they wonder why they're inflamed all the time, and they feel crappy all the time, and they're having anxiety, and they're having brain fog, and they have no energy, and all their joints ache. It's their hand-to-mouth disease. What you're shoving in your face. And until you learn how to control that, you're not going to have very good results in releasing weight, in feeling better, in getting healthier. Hi, Melody. You're just not going to have very good results with those things until you really start looking at what you're doing. Now, another eating habit that is sustainable, excuse me, but it's a little bit trickier to sustain, is the carnivore. And I have several patients who have had immensely wonderful results with the carnivore eating habit. And it's pretty much just meat. You just eat meat. And again, it eliminates all of the inflammatory foods. It's a different way to do it. I tried carnivore for a while. I couldn't sustain it myself just because I live on vegetables. And so I wasn't able to really stick with it long enough to see the kind of results it could have done for me, but I did notice I felt better while I was on it. I have patients who've been on it for years and they love it. It's kept their weight down, it's kept their energy up. So there's a lot of different ways you can shift what you're doing and make a difference in how you're feeling, your lifestyle. Get out and exercise. And that means at a minimum, walk 30 minutes a day. And that doesn't mean go out for a stroll like, you're picking a flower here and picking a flower there. No, walk like you're late for 30 minutes straight. Like, get out there and boogie walk. And that will help. Or dance, or climb, or jog, or bike, or swim, or do whatever it is that makes you happy. Find something, boxing or martial arts. I mean, there's all sorts of different things you can do that give you exercise that can help keep you healthy. And just remember, whatever you choose to do, whatever eating habit you choose to do, don't look at it as something that is limiting. Look at all the things you can consume. So people think paleo is really limiting. No, it actually isn't at all. Fruits, vegetables, meats, and nuts. You just stay away from all the junk. So you can't eat at McDog Food, you can't eat at Burger King, you can't eat at Taco Bell, you can't eat at Jollibee, you can't eat at any of those places because they don't have anything healthy. And there's a reason why America is one of the most unhealthy countries in the world. There's a reason. Because they eat crap constantly. I can say the same thing for here at the Philippines. A lot of the people that I see eat crap constantly. They eat rice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that is not supporting a healthy body. So, things to think about. There are ways around it. If you think you can't survive without rice, try quinoa, or cauliflower rice, or there's substitutes for everything that are actually healthy. And people think it's more expensive, but it really isn't, because when you eat real food, you don't need as much. If you go to McDog Food or something, you're going to need 5 Happy Meals in order to fill your stomach because there's nothing in it. There's no nutritional value of any sort in those. And so you can eat all you want and your body's like, you haven't given me anything, because there's no nutritional value to it. Whereas if you pick up an apple and eat a whole apple, your body's like, wow, that was great. I'm good to go off one apple. So start shifting your brain waves around what you're doing and start tweaking it, because it is all mental. If you were lost in the woods for 3 weeks and you had water, you wouldn't die. If you were lost in the woods for 3 weeks and had water and figured out what foods you could eat, like the vegetables that grow wild, the fruits that grow wild, the meat that runs around wild out there, you would thrive. So think about that for a moment. I hope that gave you some different things to think about. It's birch benders, cassava flour or almond flour, coconut milk, and this is the So Delicious brand, There's lots of brands back home, and again, you have to read the labels. Just because it says natural on it doesn't mean it is. Alrighty, guys. Come here. Come here. No, she's too playful right now. Gidget is doing great, by the way, for those of you who know I got a new dog. Come here. Oh, she cooperated. She is growing. She is getting big and ornery. And yes, she looks like a Jack Russell, but no, she is not. She is only 8 weeks old, and she's going to be a big girl. Huh. Alrighty. Thank you, guys. I hope that gave you some good information today, something to think about at least, and to consider for your future health. God bless everyone. Love you, and I will talk to you next week.